Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. It is FPC Radio Live. It's Thursday, July 6th. And John, we missed a very, very important, at least important to us, anniversary yesterday because we weren't on the air. It's Wednesday. Just like when it's raining for Newman, we just don't come on the air usually on Wednesdays. But yesterday, July 5th, was the anniversary of the debut of Seinfeld.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was 1989, right?
Yep.
Right, because it was a summer show, and they only had like 4 episodes, and they weren't very good. I mean, the characters hadn't found themselves yet. Kramer was much more low-key. George wasn't as neurotic, but obviously they got it right eventually.
Right.
Actually not too much later than that. But I remember that now. So you're talking 34 years ago. I mean, it's been off the air for 25 years because it ended in May of 98. So that's a very, very important date. The greatest sitcom ever. I don't even call it a sitcom. It's just right there with The Sopranos.
It's a show.
I'd say All in the Family. It's a show.
It's a show.
Like The Sopranos isn't really a drama. I mean, when you can kind of fill different genres, you're that great. For my money, Seinfeld and the closest to it as far as if we're going to call it a sitcom is All in the Family. I know it's ancient, but, it was really groundbreaking back in the early 70s. And then my favorite drama, or whatever you want to call it, The Sopranos. Maybe because I'm Italian-American, but I also think they nailed the whole family life and the family dynamic with Italian-Americans. So that's a big part of it as well. But Seinfeld at the top of the list.
Oh, yeah. No, and I... Again, I always kind of forget, and then I'm, oh yeah, that's right, July 5th. It seems like it would be an easy date to remember. I think I might have it tattooed on me at some point in my life. That's how important it is to me, John. So of course, I'd say look out for a lot of Seinfeld references, but it really wouldn't be any distinguishable between any other day. I mean, it's just a normal day. For me, referencing Seinfeld and continuing to do so. But anyways, no, I did want to start, though, because we haven't really, had not a chance. I mean, we've certainly had opportunities to talk about baseball. We just haven't really done it that much, primarily because the NBA and NHL were really, excuse me, kind of really rolling through the playoffs and everything like that. But Mike Trout just had surgery on his hand. He's going to be out 4 to 8 weeks. And the Angels and we talked about this before the season because, of course, of Shohei Ohtani. They're going to be kind of in a pretty awkward situation because if even at the low end estimation of Mike Trout's return, I think they said 4 to 8 weeks with this injury, you're talking past the trade deadline. And we again, like I said, we talked about it before the season. This is a team, the Angels, who are notoriously known as talent wasters in terms of all-time great talents and not doing a damn thing with them. At the very least right now, they can look and see if they can get something for Shohei Ohtani. And by something, I mean probably a huge haul. But this is a decision, John, that they're going to have to make in the next couple of weeks. I mean, this isn't all of a sudden, this isn't no longer deep down the line. Maybe if they're not in contention, they're a sub 500 team right now, John, with no hope of getting their best player, arguably, Mike Trout, back in the lineup before the trade deadline. Hell, he could be out until almost September. The Angels are in quite a pickle, so to speak.
Yeah, I think at this point, what the Angels have to do is reach out to Shohei Ohtani's agent, who, by the way, is not Scott Boras, so maybe things can be done quicker than they normally are with Scott Boras, who is by far the most powerful agent in baseball. But sit down and say, here's our offer. It's 10 years, $550 million. Are we in the ballpark? Can we get it done? If the answer is no, we want to wait till the season is over, you have to move him. You can't take that chance that he goes into free agency and then you've got the Dodgers, the Giants, the Yankees, the Mets, whoever interested in what is the most unique talent we've ever seen in the sport of baseball. And the only problem with that, though, is it's a 2.5 month rental or a 2-month rental, depending on when the trade would be made. You're going to get something back, but you're not going to get a ton back because the gives that team 2 months to sell themselves on Shohei Ohtani, but then he's going to file for free agency in the off season. So you've had him for 2 months, and how much do you get back to the Angels? Now, Juan Soto last year was traded from Washington to San Diego. The difference was Juan Soto had 2.5 years left on his contract. He's still with San Diego, and they have him signed for next year. And he's an elite player as well.
The
he's
difference,
not quite Shohei Ohtani.
Well, I was going to say the difference also being you're getting an elite hitter and an elite pitcher. So
it's off the charts.
So I think you can throw conventional wisdom out the door when it comes to what you're going to pay for a guy that could be those 2 months, it depends on how desperate you are for a World Series. If you're a team that, is on the cusp, arguably one of the contenders now, and you have the means in which to pull this off and can live with maybe not having him return, then you're going to overpay. You think, the Yankees of yesteryear, the team that was always in contention and, you would actually feel like they're in contention, mid 2000s or so.
Or when George Costanza was the assistant to the traveling secretary.
Where, you're basically, doing whatever it takes to acquire these players. So, I would absolutely believe a team, big market team would overpay for Ohtani. The problem is one of the big market teams is the team that currently has Shohei Ohtani. So generally, you could probably take them out of contention for trading with themselves. I don't even know if I'm just getting confused now, but yeah. So I wouldn't look. There's a team out there that would absolutely overpay for Ohtani. So even with the 2 months rental potentially that being it, I can see us like sitting here the day he gets traded, because he will get traded. I can't believe the Angels are just going to let this go. We're going to sit here and say, wow, that was wow, what a haul, just like the the little talking keychain George has, but obviously slightly different.
The Mets would be one team that would certainly be interested. They're on the outside looking in terms of the playoffs. Their owner has an unlimited amount of money and is willing to spend it to bring a World Series championship back to New York. Would it happen this year? I don't know. They're literally outside of the playoffs right now by 4 or 5 games. Now, you add Shohei Ohtani to that lineup. You put him in that rotation with Verlander and Scherzer. You could go into a postseason with Ohtani, Scherzer, Verlander.
And if you're the Mets,
be damn scary.
You can probably be pretty confident that you can re-sign him too. This isn't a team if
he wants to play in New York. That's the big question. He may be adamant that he wants to stay on the West Coast, and I've somewhat not bought into that in terms of it's closer to Japan. Does he take daily trips to Japan from the West Coast? During the season he's in the United States, right, playing baseball, and then in the off season he's probably in Japan enjoying his life. I don't know how many times he's going back and forth from Anaheim to Japan. I don't know about in the season, because the guy plays every game. He's either pitching or hitting or doing both. So but I think he likes the West Coast lifestyle. That's why I've always thought the Giants, if they want to fork over enough money, may be a great place for him. And I'm a Giants fan, so I'd love to see that. The Dodgers obviously are an option. Staying with the Angels, if they can commit to him, would be an option. But I would think Steve Cohen go ahead and do it and say, look, I'm going to control the back page for the months of August and September. This would be even bigger news, or at least as big a news as Aaron Rodgers' debut with the Jets in September. You would have just added 2 megastars to Metro New York in a period of time. It would be interesting, wouldn't it? And Steve Cohen, I'm sure, has the wherewithal and the moxie to sit down and say, 10 years, $550 million, 10 years, $600 million, let's get this done.
Right.
And, that's a lot of money to turn down, but he may not want to play in New York, or at least it would be an opportunity for him to test it for 2 months, and he may fall in love with New York. We don't know.
Well, and look, that's the thing. When you're on the cusp of making as much money, or having already made as much money as he has, and then obviously we know that a very large amount is in his near future, he can, he can maybe lean towards prep, because it's not like if he turns down the deal from the Mets that he's going to get a substantially smaller deal from another team. Like, he's still going to get paid, like one way or the other, John. He is going to get a, proverbial Brinks truck worth of money backed up, possibly 2, maybe even 3 trucks worth backed up to his front door. So, it's not going to be, you can only really cash in New York. No, I mean, well, you go to New York, you're forking over quite a bit of your money for taxes. So maybe that contract.
California too.
Yeah, well,
the biggest state in terms of that.
That's the thing. So maybe. Unfortunately, Massachusetts is also a fairly highly taxed state. So I was going to say, the Red Sox, that doesn't really matter. So again, that big contract number may not be as significantly bigger than, say, now, I mean, I wish I had a better knowledge of which states have no income tax. Texas is
Florida and Texas.
Yeah.
Florida and Texas.
Oh, good. Great.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure Tampa is going to fork over $500 million to Shohei Ohtani or whatever. Yeah.
They give him a contract worth every contract ever given in the history of the franchise to one player. That would be something.
I'll just repeat what Joe DiMaggio said, late in his life. Like, if you were playing today, what would you do when you met with the owner? You sit down with the owner and say, you have a new partner. And that was what it was with Shohei Ohtani. You could
pretty much
say, I now own 51%.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah,
I was going to say Ohtani would get top billing in this partnership. Trust me. Like he would have the controlling share, so to speak. But yeah, but honestly, like the Rangers. That's it.
They spent money.
Yeah,
money.
And that's the thing. You're still West Coast. You know what I mean? You're still, I guess technically Central, but you know what I mean? You're still closer than you would be in, like, say, New York or Boston or whatever.
Right.
They're a team that can spend and has contended at least in the past. So, maybe it's the Rangers. Again, I mean, excuse me. It really depends on what his priorities are. And we're not judging one way or the other. I mean, his priorities are his priorities. It doesn't matter to us. It's just we're trying to guess them right now. And if it's money, if it's total value, if the idea of being the highest paid player in the history of baseball is something that he wants, then maybe he ignores the tax situation in New York and just goes with the Mets. Because I got to believe that the Mets are probably the team that can offer him the absolute maximum dollar, not necessarily the most that he nets, but on the headline, like you were saying, like 10 years, 60 million or 60 million. That's chump change. I'm talking 600 million, 700 million, talking something like that. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, but really it's all going to come to a head soon. We're going to know in the next couple of weeks because, well, it's July 7th or 6th or whatever the hell day it is. Either way, it's getting closer and closer to August 1st.
Yeah, it's going to happen within 3.5 weeks. If it does happen, the Mets obviously would appear to be ready, willing, and able to give him whatever he wants. And again, in the state of New York, in the state of California, the state income tax is 14%. Massachusetts now has a millionaire's tax, which certainly he would qualify for. It's at 9%. Florida and Texas, 2 states where you don't pay state income taxes. Texas, of those teams in the 2 states, would make the most sense because they were throwing a lot of money around. They gave Jacob deGrom, I believe, 5 years, $180 million, and he may not pitch again till 2025. So, they've forked over a lot of money. Maybe they make a big splash with Shohei Ohtani. The team that needs him the most really is the Boston Red Sox. Because I'll be honest with you, in being here, interest in the Red Sox is at a 30-year low right now. It really is.
Sure.
Ratings on NESN are god-awful. The only time people talk about them on sports talk radio is to bash them, when they look like the Bad News Bears out in the field. Obviously, the Patriots are still the biggest team in the city. I would say the Celtics are number 2, and the Bruins and Red Sox can battle it out for 3, but at least you have a little more confidence the Bruins are going to be at least an enjoyable product during the regular season, not necessarily the postseason. But right now, it is all-time low. I mean, they don't even have stars. They don't have recognizable players. I mean, Rafael Devers is a really nice player. He's not a star. He's not a superstar. I mean, you had one in Mookie Betts. You traded him away. You had one in David Ortiz. He eventually retired, obviously, 7 years ago. there's no interest in the Red Sox right now. The reason they bang out 30,000 fans per game is because it's the biggest tourist attraction in Boston. Literally, It really is. People come here to go to Fenway Park, and then you've got a big enough region where, hey, let's go to a baseball game once a year, so you're going to fill that ballpark. But the interest is at an all-time low. They could use them more than anyone, but they're not in that game right now.
Well, and the reality of it is, going back pre-2004, for a long time, you could live off hope, like, the team's cursed, but maybe it's finally going to happen next year. I mean, you don't have, they've won, so you don't have that novelty, I guess you can call it now, novelty of hoping and maybe, finding joy and what you've become used to. But what you've become used to now is winning and competing. And what we have now is just a small market team in a big budget city. Still paying that big budget, that's the problem.
And paying big budget in terms of ticket prices and beer and parking, and it's still a.
So if you want to justify that, you absolutely would benefit the most, and probably not only on the field but off the field as well. Because again, we go back to you're adding an elite pitcher and an elite hitter all in one move. So that's something very, very rare. So again, if you're the Red Sox, if you have the ability to pull it off, and you're confident that maybe you can keep them long term, then that's I agree with you. I think they're probably the team that benefits the most. But any team who acquires them is going to be better and is going to benefit. So
I want to see him go to the Mets. I love that owner. I mean, the guy engages with fans on Twitter.
I do, but the Mets are just a cursed franchise. Talk about curses. I mean, come on. He goes to the Mets.
Well, they did win in '86. I mean, there's two cursed franchises.
You know what? I was born in '86, and I'm going to be 37 this year. Okay, so don't tell me about.
You were born during the World Series, weren't you?
Yeah. So trust me.
The curse of Ian.
All right, I'll take it. If I am the cause, if I am the cause of New York fandom misery now, I wish it would be Yankees. Because I'm indifferent about the Mets. I don't really care about the Mets necessarily. But hey, I'll take it.
Growing up at that time in Somerville, which of course is right outside of Boston, and quite a tough university is in Somerville. Again, I was 23 at the time. I wasn't a big Red Sox fan, but you would not believe how many Mets fans went to Tufts. It was just incredible. Especially at that time, because the team was so darn good. They were so in your face about it. But it was a fun World Series. It didn't end the right way. But they really haven't done a hell of a lot since. I think they've been to 2 World Series since 2000 and 2015, and they lost both of those series in 5 games. But I do like the owner, because I find him somewhat refreshing. If you don't have a lot of larger-than-life owners in baseball, they're kind of like this serious group of guys, whereas this guy is certainly out there and is a fan and just wants to win a World Series for his favorite team.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not really as motivated to see a team win because of the owner. So.
Good point. I'm not really either. They don't really have many problems in their life. I mean,
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, he's still worth $36 billion.
I mean, wasn't this the guy? Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't this the guy also who owned the hedge fund that helped shut down during that whole AMC Robin Hood thing? So I'm good. I'm good rooting for Steve Cohen. It's fun. It's fun to see. Look, if there's a owner that I root for, it's Steve Ballmer, because he's brought. Sorry, folks. Sometimes my English no good. He has brought some pure entertainment. This is before he owned the clip. There was a clip. This is back during E-Bombs World days, where you gather around the computer with your friends and watch stupid video clips. Basically, what we see on Twitter and TikTok now, but long before Twitter and TikTok, and his shareholders meeting or company meeting that he ran for Microsoft back in the day, where he was just absolutely just a goddamn maniac is what he is. And so I'll root for Steve Ballmer because I think he's entertaining. And in that sense, and a little bit nostalgic thinking about those videos. They're crazy. Have you seen those, John?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah. Because I mean, no one loves the company more than Steve Ballmer. But anyways, maybe the Clippers. Maybe the Clippers will go out and get Shohei Ohtani. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
he can pitch. He can. Yeah, I was gonna.
George,
He'll play more games. Sure. Yeah, I mean, he can hit.
Like,
he can pitch. I mean, he's got to be able to shoot a basketball.
Give him a basketball, he'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, breaking news: absolutely no movement on DeAndre Hopkins.
Mm-hmm.
Like to the point where ESPN rehashed a story as a report that said the Patriots and Titans are the favorites. Well, duh. He hasn't visited any other teams in the last 2 weeks. So, of course, it makes sense that they're the favorites. And the fact that you're reporting something that was reported 2 weeks ago as something fresh and new just kind of tells you all you need to know about where we're at in this whole DeAndre Hopkins thing. And basically, nowhere. I don't think, both of us kind of expected that, maybe he'll wait out a little bit until we get closer to training camp. Maybe he wants to miss a little bit of a training camp. Maybe he's waiting out, a team like the Chiefs who are working on a Chris Jones extension that could potentially open up enough money to pay him. But that's probably not going to happen for a while, at least into training camp. And then all of a sudden you have, two teams that could potentially contend that look like they're willing and wanting to get him on board. So, ultimately, as it stands right now, I still think New England's the best spot for him, considering all the factors, money available, team around him, coaching, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not really surprised that there has been not an urgency, I guess, to sign this early. And I say early, I mean, we are getting kind of deeper into the offseason where training camp is obviously going to be starting up here soon. But, the reality of it is, he doesn't have to sign right now. And I think waiting it out as long as possible, I don't think it's going to devalue himself unless he brings his own price tag down.
Yeah, I mean, I think also he may be waiting to see if a wide receiver gets injured early in training camp. I remember back in 2015, Jordy Nelson blew out his knee in the first exhibition game, and the Packers were kind of screwed at that point. They went out and got James Jones, who I thought had retired with the Raiders. But, maybe DeAndre Hopkins looks at it and says, well, some receiver's going to drop in training camp. Now my price can go up and I can go to a team that is a Super Bowl contender. Obviously, the Chiefs and Bills are always the two teams that come to mind. They haven't been able to work it out. But I think he can come into camp, even if it's with the Patriots or the Titans, a week or two into camp. It's such a long season. There's going to be some load management with him anyway. I think he can pretty much pick up the offense, especially in New England where, Bill O'Brien's the offensive coordinator. He was his head coach and play caller with the Texans for half a decade. So I think he would know the terminology and fit in pretty quickly. So just a veteran player who probably doesn't want to go through, exerting himself early in training camp, especially, in like 96-degree heat, whether it's in Foxborough or Nashville.
Right. And well, I was going to say, are you sure it's even going to reach that point in Massachusetts? It hasn't been just raining.
Not in Massachusetts, no. It rains every day.
Just rains every day. It's you in Seattle, just. Oh.
I don't have an answer for that. Is there something else I can help with?
Excuse me, Siri? I don't know if you heard that, John. Did you hear that?
I did.
Okay, well, I'm assuming others out there heard that. It's very strange that it just kind of picks up those conversations. I have a feeling she's going to respond to this because, well, she's still reacting. So, yes, we have a third co-host today, folks. It's Siri with her just nonsense. I don't really care. Here. There. Done. Okay. She won't be responding anymore. I muted her mic.
Okay.
Anyways, unless she was going to tell us where DeAndre Hopkins was going to sign, I really don't care what she has to say. I'm very verbally...
Siri doesn't know.
No. Well, I was going to say I'm very verbally abusive towards Siri. So, anyways, just a little insight into my private life where I just sit here alone and berate Siri, an AI device inside my phone and computer. It's I'm strange, John. Strange. I'm willing to admit that.
Well, did you see the film Her? which came out, I believe, in 2013 or 2014.
I did
Great
not.
movie.
I didn't see it. That was with Joaquin Phoenix, right?
Joaquin Phoenix
Yeah.
and Scarlett Johansson.
Right. I didn't see it, but I know which one you're talking about because he like falls in love with like a computer, right?
Yeah, he falls in love with his operating system, which we all have at some point.
Of course,
Scarlett Johansson, why wouldn't we? I mean, they picked the right actress. I thought she should have got nominated for Best Supporting Actress, even though she didn't even appear on screen. Well, I love Scarlett Johansson.
Well, I mean, if she was the voice of Siri, I'd be much kinder to her. So
you would. I would. She'd be our third co-host on the show.
Yeah. I think she's my age. Like, we're both like either 80. She's either 85 or we're both 86ers. I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So there's a connection. So if I ever meet her, I can sit there and say, hey, of all the actually, never mind. She was born in 84. Whatever, close enough.
Not that far off. Yeah.
We were in high school around the same time. So there we go.
Yeah. You
icebreaker.
The same president, right? I mean, Reagan was president.
Right. Yep. There you go.
The rumor was he was president in '86. I'm not sure, but yeah. That's why I'm very proud. I was born in April of 1963, so my first president was JFK. So
there you go.
Around for a lot of presidents. Yeah, that's usually a great pickup line. We were born 2 years apart. We have that in common.
What's the chances of that?
What? Yeah, that's really something. That's a connector.
Yeah.
It's a starter.
Yeah.
I get it. So
I'd probably go with the more. I'd probably go for the more obvious approach that is just an outrageous attempt at a connection. You know what I mean? I wouldn't try to go with that as a legitimate connection, but or I just go mush mouth because it's Scarlett Johansson, and I'd lose all sense of my surroundings. And yeah,
be like Chris Farley with Paul McCartney.
Yeah, interviewing
him as that character, the talk show host that he had. You're Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. I'd all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, not have anything to say, which, that's a rarity.
You could say that the Celtics won championship 15 and 1984.
I wouldn't even know what basketball is at that point. You get it. At that point, I'm like, what?
Yeah, the other things you'd be looking at besides basketball.
Yeah, well, of course, we'd be having a deep conversation and everything like that. No, I said, I'd be weak. Like I said, I'd lose it. It's like the same reaction I'd have if I met Tom Brady. Which again, I'm comfortable admitting it because, well, hey, it's Tom Brady. I mean, who wouldn't react that way? By the way, I gotta know this. I gotta get to know this Michael Rubin guy. The guy who was throwing that party with apparently every A+ list celebrity in the world.
Everybody dressed in white.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's politically correct when you own a basketball team, but
I think it's
further into that.
Those are popular themed parties, like well, white dressed only.
Going to reference the Great Gatsby's again.
Yeah. We've done more than enough referencing of the Great Gatsby. The only reference we'll make is the reference through Seinfeld, or actually no, or I'll allow also back to school reference. Have you read The Great Gatsby? Well, sure. Well, what was the great? Well, he was great. He was
great. He was awesome.
Yeah.
Was the awesome Gatsby.
Yes.
Who showed up at that party was Grant Williams. He was invited.
Yes.
You got Jennifer Lopez, you got Ben Affleck, you got Beyonce, you got Tom Brady, you got Jay-Z, Robert Kraft, a smorgasbord of NBA superstars, and Grant Williams.
Yeah.
So he's almost like the Forrest Gump of the NBA. He keeps showing up at places.
Well,
he's in Dallas.
Yeah, I was going to say former Celtic. I will say this. Leo looks old. That was kind of a weird, I saw him, I was like, wow, he's almost kind of turning into Jack Nicholson. At that point where Jack just kind of just started to get gray and old.
Give a bleep at that point.
Yeah. That's kind of where Leo is now. It's a little bit younger, but let the hair grow out a little. Well,
he's 48.
Yeah, we'll let the hair grow out a little bit.
Yeah. why not? You know, I know the 23-year-old girls that he's dating, you know, like that. But the thing about DiCaprio, did he get to interact with Tom Brady and they could have talked about Giselle because, you know, he dated Giselle 20 years ago. And of course, we know Giselle was Brady's significant other for a decade. So maybe they connected. I always felt that if there was going to be a movie about the Patriots, Deflategate, whatever, that DiCaprio could play Brady. You know, why not go get one of the greatest movie stars ever to play Brady?
Unfortunately, Tom Brady looks about 15 years younger than Leo does right now, and they're only just a few years apart. But okay, that's enough. We're good. We'll go through the aging of middle-aged celebrities at a later date. We'll fill some time on a Friday. We can go through and rate all that. But that's going to do it for us here today. Tomorrow, again, I don't expect anything to happen on the DeAndre Hopkins front. But if it does, we'll talk about it. If there's a James Harden trade, we'll talk about it. And there's a lot of things we could talk about. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll talk to you tomorrow.